Hello, this is saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is a conversation in jazz, where we are promoting jazz through telling the stories. Today, we are presenting part one of our two-part interview with Master Jazz Vocalese artist, aka Your Majesty, Mr. George V. Johnson. We ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so we can let you know when we are posting another video or going live. We also ask you to donate to our Cash App in order to support the channel and help us to produce future videos. Our Cash App is $Jazzology 101. That's $Jazzology 101. Enjoy the video. Hi, I'm saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is a conversation in jazz. Today, I'm honored to have one of the masters of the art of jazz vocalese. He was named the Heir Apparent next in line by the great Eddie Jefferson, who is the father of jazz vocalese. Not only is he a vocalist, but he's also a lyricist, an actor, playwright, producer, promoter, consultant, composer, and contributing editor. You might remember his show, Jazz is Cooking. Please welcome Your Majesty, Mr. George V. Johnson.
Oh, thank you so
What's
much,
up,
Antonio. Oh, man, it's so nice, man. What a great introduction.
Oh, man, I said we got to do that for you.
I
You know what I'm saying?
appreciate that. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
Man, I'm glad to have you on our show, man. I've known you for some years, through the jazz circuit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
But man, some things I don't know about, so we're gonna learn about some things today. You know what I'm saying? So, my first question is, for those who don't know, who is George V. Johnson?
George V. Johnson. I'm a native Washingtonian.
Okay.
Born 1950, right
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C. I came out of high school in 1968, Spingarn High.
You went to Spingarn?
I went to Spingarn.
Wow, I taught right next to Spingarn.
With Brown?
I taught at Brown and Charles Young.
Yeah, okay.
My first year teaching, I was at Brown, and then the following year I went to Charles Young for about. So I know that area pretty well.
Yep, and I grew up in Southeast.
Okay.
I went to Knoll, to Sousa, and Spingarn.
Okay.
And when I was young, when we moved on Benning Road, and we moved on Benning Road in 1958. I can say I was 8 years old. That was probably when I really, really started loving music.
Okay, we're gonna go into that.
Yeah,
We can go down memory lane. Before we do,
yeah.
You are master of the art of, is it jazz vocalese or vocalese?
The art of jazz vocalese, writing and singing lyrics to improvise solos.
So jazz vocalese is writing and singing lyrics to jazz solos. That's what that is.
To improvise solos.
Improvise solos.
Any improvised solo. It doesn't have to be jazz.
Okay, gotcha. How's that different than scat singing?
You're scat singing, you're scatting, you're singing a solo.
You're actually improvising.
You're improvising like a saxophone or like a trumpet.
Uh-huh.
And so it's, and the way I approach it, I approach it by rhythms, by rhythms.
Gotcha.
By rhythms.
Okay. So do you scat as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But your primary thing is jazz vocalese.
Yes.
Amongst other things.
Yes. and I take solos. I solo as well. Sometimes you're in a position where you have to take a solo.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's what people want to hear.
Yes, sir. No doubt.
That separates the men from the boys when you can sing changes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you're Washingtonian, native
Yes.
Washingtonian. Now, what was it like coming up in D.C. when you were coming up?
Well, coming up in D.C. when I was coming up, it was the civil rights movement. I think I was 5 years old when Emmett Till was murdered. So those memories are in my head. So so when I was growing up, there was a lot of racism.
Really?
Even though they passed certain laws, you still had to know your place.
Yeah.
So where I went to school, it was all black. No, it was all black. Mm-hmm. Sousa was when I first went to school. Sousa was probably 60% white.
Okay.
And the second year, it was like 90% black.
Wow.
Then the third year, it was only like 1 or 2 white.
So you came up in D.C. Well, you grew up pre-integration. Like,
yeah.
So what was that like? Because I don't know that. I don't know that.
Well, in D.C., we didn't have to ride the back of the bus, but you still had to know your place.
Okay.
You know, and Fort DuPont. I don't know if you know this. Fort DuPont was an all-white 18-hole golf course.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It shut down the year of the riots. It was like when all the white people left D.C., almost everything shut down. You know?
So you remember coming up in the 60s when all that...
I remember the 50s and the 60s. I was at all the marches. I was a teenager. Then I had my driver's license when I was 15. Wow. So I was going downtown. Practically every march that happened in D.C., I was there and, you know, trying to take part. I didn't join no organizations.
Yeah, but you were there.
But I was there.
So did you get to see Dr. King?
Yes.
You got to see Dr. King?
Yes.
You ever see Malcolm X?
No, I didn't see Malcolm X.
But you got to see Dr. King?
Yes, I got to see Martin Luther King. I was 13.
What was that like?
I didn't really know what was going on. I think we lived
was he speaking somewhere?
The March on Washington.
Oh, you was at the March on Washington?
My grandparents lived at 10th and Rhode Island Avenue.
Okay.
And I remember I had aunts and uncles, and I remember them walking us down 10th Street down to the march.
So you saw when Dr. King gave that speech?
Yes, I was 13. It was all, but I wasn't into politics. It was just exciting just being around all these people. I was 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's heavy, man.
Yeah. So I grew up watching Martin Luther King
Yeah.
and Malcolm X on TV.
Yeah.
So in those days, my heroes were Malcolm, Martin, Jim Brown,
James Brown.
James Brown. Everybody danced like James Brown because he had messages in his music.
Yeah.
So it was people like, you know, back in those days, it was Muhammad Ali. It was people like those who were my role models.
Inspired you
that I wanted to be like.
What was it like in the black community? Meaning that, like, some people say this. Some people say we were more cohesive as a community before integration than we are now.
Oh yes, we were poor and didn't even know it. My mother and father were married at 16 and 15. Mm-hmm. So I think 6, and so she got pregnant. So they ended up living with my grandfather.
Wow.
So imagine him raising. At then it was probably 3 kids, but now it's 5 of us. Imagine
you have siblings?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Okay.
And so imagine, and then we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Oh wow!
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we had bunk beds in the room, and we slept together.
Yeah.
And somebody peed, everybody got wet. You know what I mean?
Everybody got it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I was born in '69.
Yes.
So I came on the end of all that. So, '70s was different.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was like. And I got a piece of it. Don't get me wrong, because I grew up in a black community, and you know, everybody knew each other. You knew Miss such and such from down the street. It doesn't seem like that now.
No, everybody knew each other. As a matter of fact, you know, in them days, if you was walking down the street, cussing or doing something wrong, before you got home, somebody done called your house.
Yeah.
Miss Johnson, I just saw Butchie running down the street, cursing his mouth.
Well, yeah.
And you know, everybody took care of you. In them days, you could talk to a child. Mm-hmm. Now you can't say nothing to a child. You go to jail.
Yeah, that's heavy. Wow.
Matter of fact, when I was in school, you still got beat with the ruler and the pointer.
Yeah, I remember that.
You had to bend over.
Yeah.
I went to Nall, and I think the last time I ever got in trouble when I was 13.
Yeah.
They were building those apartments. You know what Simple City is?
Simple City?
The projects on Benning Road. That's what we call it, Simple City.
Okay.
I know Benning Road.
I know what Benning Road is.
Yeah, well, it used to be a drugstore and Safeway.
Okay.
On Benning Road, but there's a school up on top of that hill. That used to be a cemetery. I was Payne Cemetery, and Nall is on the other side. So we used to cut through the cemetery.
Okay.
Back in them days, man, the whole neighborhood raised you. If somebody saw you doing something wrong, they straighten you out.
Did you have a lot of fun coming up?
Man, we had a lot of fun.
Really?
We made our own toys.
Yeah.
But on Benning Road, it was some up there where that school is. That was a cemetery, and there was some sand hills. And we used to flip off the hills and jump in the sand and build tree houses. I never really had I had a few toys in my life. I never had. We built our own toys.
Yeah.
I built a skateboard. Built a go-kart.
Yeah, I remember.
I made my own bicycle.
Yeah, you used to do that, man.
I hustled soda bottles.
Yeah, yeah.
I hustled groceries at the Safeway. I go out and make $10, $15 a week. I give my mother the money on a Saturday and Sunday. Then I got me a radio flyer wagon, and I was really hustling that. And then I give my mother the money, and she give it to me at the end of the month, and I go down on 8th Street. Because 8th Street was out downtown.
Gotcha.
8th Street, 7th Street, 14th Street was out downtown. That's where we went shopping. And I go down and get my clothes. So I've been pretty independent with things since I was about 13.
Okay. So D.C. is known for go-go music.
Yes.
Are you connected in any way to go-go?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because back in the 60s, my mother's sister, my Aunt Beverly, she married Frank Wellman.
Oh, wow.
He was a drummer.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
With Frank, it was just the Soul Searchers, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was 13.
Uh-huh.
And so I got the chance to be around them. So my grandfather owned about 211 acres down in southern Maryland, Indian Head.
Wow.
So he would bring them down to play the cookouts.
Yeah.
And but during them days,
Chuck Brown?
Chuck was just singing, "Look at me." He was singing stuff like that. Wasn't no go-go or nothing. So Frank Wellman and them, unfortunately, he passed, and he had a terrible drug habit. But in them days, the guys had drug habits.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And he died. As a matter of fact, he died in our house on 10th Street.
He died in your house?
In our house. He OD'd in the house.
Wow.
And so when he died, Ricky was about 14 and 15.
Ricky was his...
Sugarfoot.
Yeah.
They call him Sugar. You know why they call him Sugarfoot? Because one leg was shorter than the other.
Well, what were their relation?
Ricky was Frank Wellman's son. So when Frank died, Ricky came and took over.
Oh, wow.
So when he used to practice, he used to do this.
They called him Sugarfoot?
Yeah, because he had one foot shorter than the other. He used to limp.
Oh, wow.
And so he would always be playing this funny beat.
Uh-huh.
And guess what? It ended up being a go-go beat.
Wow.
Yes. Ended up being a go-go. Wow. I seen that whole...
You think it's
I seen that whole developmentation, that whole involved.
Yeah.
I saw the music evolve.
Beautiful.
I saw, because James Brown, and then they got funky. James Brown made everybody funky in the 60s.
Yeah.
Because we was growing up going to a party, they played 6 James Brown records.
Yeah.
James Brown always had a hit, so next thing you know, in the 60s, everybody became funky.
Yeah, yeah.
They couldn't help it.
Did y'all do the house parties and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, we had house parties. Oh, man, we used to party every weekend. In school, we called where the party at.
Yeah.
We had like 10 parties.
Yeah.
We go to different parties all around the city and just party. And then I was a DJ, too.
You were?
I was a DJ.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I was a DJ, man. We had a club, a social club, and we used to rent this place called Lindsay's Wedding Palace on Florida Avenue.
Yeah.
And I had a stereo system. I had the whole. I
built my
own reverb system.
Wow.
Echo chamber. See, they had kits in those days.
Yeah, yeah.
and so if you bumped against the echo chamber or the reverb, it would go boing, 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 boing. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so we rent places. So I was DJing back in the late 60s and the 70s. Wow. Just before DJs.
Yeah, before they really. Yeah,
and I got that from my father, because my father always playing music. I love playing music, and when I joined the social club, I was nominated as the DJ.
So you a baby boomer. You from the baby boomer generation, right?
I don't know the definition of that.
I think that's your generation.
Okay.
It's right before. I'm Generation X, so that's right before my. I think you're part of the baby boomer generation. But that generation produced some great music. I think from the mid 40s to up into the end of the 60s. So you say you were born in 51?
I was born in 1950.
1950?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're part of you're a baby boomer.
So I grew up on...
what artists did you listen to coming up?
Frankie Lyman. That was one of my favorites, Frankie Lyman, and the Teenagers. Because I had a first tenor. I'll always love you.
Yeah.
Be because my heart is true. See, come closer. I'll tell you about the ABC. So and then we had the Howard Theater. So it was always concerts and
wow.
and talent shows.
Okay.
My sister used to be in the talent shows at the Howard Theater. So we had so much going on here, man.
Yeah.
And then you had you had the Temptations, Supremes, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder.
You got to see a lot of those guys?
Oh yeah, the Howard Theater. Yeah, I last saw Marvin in '74 at the Capitol Center in 19.
You saw who?
Marvin Gaye.
Wow.
At the Capitol Center.
Who was that like?
That was when he first started wearing the knit caps.
Yeah,
and the sparkles.
Wow.
He was there with Chaka Khan, and that was a great interview. That was a great concert.
So looking back on your life, what decade resonates most with you? Like, what was your, if you had to choose a decade, 60s, 70s, or 50s? You got a whole.
I love the 60s.
Really?
Though there's so much going on, we were young. And we had so much fun together.
Yeah.
It wasn't no fighting, wasn't no shooting.
Yeah.
It wasn't no drugs.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about no drugs.
Yeah.
It wasn't. You got in a fight. You got in a fight.
And you became friends after.
Yeah. It was none of that.
Yeah.
It was
So you like the 60s?
I like the 60s. It was no danger. It wasn't as dangerous. You could have your doors wide open in those days. Yep.
Wow. So, do you come from a musical family?
Only one. My father. He played a lot. He played music. That was his hobby. And I had a sister. My sister, she used to sing in a group.
Really?
You understand? But other than that, nobody played music.
So how'd you start singing?
How I started singing? When we moved on Benning Road, it was the resident manager's name was Spencer Payne. He was a pianist, a local pianist here in D.C.
Spencer Payne?
Spencer Payne. He played around in all the clubs, the hotels, and he would have jam sessions at his house.
Okay.
Every weekend, almost every weekend. And people like Jimmy Cobb, Keita Betts, Buck
Hill?
Calvin, Shirley Horn. And Shirley went to school with my father at Shaw. I got pictures of Shirley Horn in junior high school. So these were the people. So on the weekends, we'd be the kids that be hiding, peeking out the door, or coming out there. They say, "Oh, can you show us that new dance?" They give us a nickel a dime. Next thing we know, we in the party.
Yeah.
So I grew up. That's how I got into the music. Then my father, he would always be talking stuff on the microphone. And so when he was gone, I turned the microphone on, and I started singing all those songs that he'd be playing, like King Pleasure. That was the first song I learned.
Your dad was he a DJ or something?
No.
Oh, he just had a mic at the house?
He just had a microphone. He built his own stereo system. He had it
at the house?
He was a neighborhood music guy. So when he played music, be coming out the windows, everybody be listening.
Wow.
He didn't have a regular stereo system, that box.
Yeah.
He built his own stereo system, his own speakers and everything.
Wow.
So that's how my father was the one that really introduced me to music.
So who taught you how to sing?
Nobody. I'm self-taught.
You self-taught?
I never took a lesson or went to school for anything. I did it for love. I did it for love.
Really? So you didn't study voice and breathing and techniques and all that?
I never studied anything. But I listened to Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Coleman Hawkins, Lester Young. So if you practice, so what happened was, I started singing. I don't know. I just got good at it.
Yeah.
I got good.
But I'm saying before you, and we're gonna talk about how you got into jazz.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, were you singing prior to?
Only in church.
Oh, you were singing in church, so you came up. Okay.
I grew up in the church, singing in the church choir. The first time I sung in the church choir was me and my sister. We sang "Blessed Assurance" as a duet.
Okay.
And and I've been singing in church, so that being nervous and being scared, that went away.
Right there.
Yeah. Before I turned.
Now, did you always have a good voice, a nice voice?
I don't know. I don't know. I just sang. But I know I could imitate Frankie Lyman. I could dance like James Brown.
Yeah.
That's why I dance a lot and move a lot.
Yeah.
When I'm on stage.
Yeah,
we grew up in the funk. So, it ain't no just standing still or just sitting on a stool.
Yeah.
No, I got to move and dance. Because you putting those feelings out and you get that interaction with the crowd and everybody else wants to dance.
Yeah, I was checking you out. I was looking at you yesterday. You were hitting with Benny Golson, man, and I said, you got your own vibe. We're going to talk about that, too, because, But you also sang in schools, in your schools?
I sang in a school choir, elementary, junior high, and high school.
Okay.
In high school at Spingarn, I was a natural first tenor. As a matter of fact, we had a teacher named Mr. Bernard Walton. He was such a great teacher. And We sing it at 15. I sang at Carnegie Hall, Ave Maria. You know,
Really?
stuff like that. You
Wow.
know.
So did you ever learn how like to read music and all that stuff?
Yeah, a little. Yeah.
You had little.
Yeah, a little, yeah. Yes, I learned. You know, in choir. You know.
Yeah.
You know. I be faking it like everybody else. But I had such a photographic memory.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And you know what, man? When you talk about memory, see, I learned the other way, where you read notes on a page, and what I learned is that sometimes it doesn't stick with you when you learn that way, because you learn it through your eyes.
Yeah.
But when you learn it through your ears and your mind, it sticks with you.
Yeah. Well, music really wasn't an option for me. You know, I love playing sports. I love just doing outdoor things. So it really wasn't an option to me. And my father, back in the 50s and 60s, my father, the way he raised us is that when you turn 18, you're a man.
Yeah.
And when you're a man, you're getting out of here.
Yeah.
You're going to college.
Yeah.
You're going to Vietnam. You're going someplace.
You didn't go to Vietnam, did you?
No, but
okay.
I was going to PG College. I went to college, PG
Okay,
College
you
in
went to PG?
'68.
In
It
'68?
was $13 a credit hour. UDC was 11.
Uh-huh.
And Howard University was 32, and I ended up going to PG because we moved to Maryland right after the riots. I was only 25 of us then.
Wow.
So I went to PG College, you know. And
You also, I read you went to Howard.
I went to Howard, yeah.
What was your major at Howard?
I got into the theater, man. It was really the way I got in by accident. I was hanging out with Kurt Stewart, Keita Betts, and Warren Shad. They was on break with Ella.
Yeah. with Ella Fitzgerald?
Yeah, so they was playing at the Showboat.
Uh-huh.
One time at the Showboat up in Silver Spring, and they was at the downtown, Rogan Jar, and they was playing. And after I sang, Kurt Stewart and Keita pulled me over and said, "Look here, George, it's this musical going to Europe, and how would you?" No, he said, "How would you like to go to school?" I was driving Metro bus.
Yeah.
I was a Metro bus driver and
yeah,
making about $40,000 a year there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and
that's good money, right?
Yeah, that was good money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, yeah. So they said, come up to the school and ask for Henrietta Edmondson. So I went up there. I met Henry, and she took me for a tour on the school, took me through the theater, and I didn't know what they had planned. And so she said, well, if you want to go to school, come back up here in August and register. So I'm driving around. I didn't go up there, you know, and because I was working, driving Metro bus. I was singing in the workshops of John Malachi. And I went up there. It was around October, November. I was walking in the halls, and Henry saw me and said, "Aren't you supposed to be in school?
Wow.
Do you still want to go to school?" Next thing you know, I'm in school, and we practicing Raisin. We went on a 6-month tour to Europe with Raisin and Sound and Soul.
What was the play?
It's Raisin in the Sun, Raisin.
Oh,
the
wow.
Broadway music Raisin.
Okay, so that's how you got into acting in that.
That was the first time I did any acting.
Now, how long were you at Howard?
Just a year.
Okay.
Because we went to Europe, we came back. Eddie Jefferson was murdered while we were there, May 9, 1979. We were doing Raisin. I think we were in Paris, France, and I got a telegram from Bill Harris saying, "Sorry to inform you, Eddie Jefferson is dead." Wow. And I cried.
Wow.
And at that time, Mike Smith was our roommate. Remember Mike Smith?
Mike Smith.
Howard, drummer, conga player.
I remember.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I came back. Raisin closed May 29th, and when I came home, I did a tribute to Eddie, and I wanted to move to New York.
Wow. Damn. So
we're gonna
talk about that.
Yeah, because that's really heavy the way I did that.
Well, and speaking of New York, it's funny because, and I put this in my notes, is that when I hear you perform, even though you're from D.C., you have a New York sensibility in your music. Like, you sound like it's a certain sound, like a New York sound that I hear when I hear you perform.
I think that's from the saxophonist singing with James Moody.
Yeah. I hear that.
You know.
Sing
with Moody with John Malachi.
Yeah. And let's talk about
the songs. It's certain songs. Singing is more than just singing. Yeah. You got to know how to pick the right material to make people feel your music.
Yeah. And I was saying that to myself. I say, not only do you sing the right notes, but you got the spirit behind the notes.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's because of you've lived some life. You ain't just get here, you know, walking through the corridors of school. You've been through the University of the Streets and I guess some School of Hard Knocks. Did you go through that school too?
Oh yeah.
You been through that school?
I'll tell you about how I moved to New York.
Okay, we're gonna get to
the New York part.
Yeah,
but I've always was told that I had perfect pitch ever since I was in high school.
Oh wow.
I guess it's just from listening and the way I practice. I might sing the same song 100 times.
Gotcha.
I might sing it 2 or 3 years before I sing it in public. So by the time I get it in public,
yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's where I did all those lyrics.
Wow. We're gonna talk about you. We're gonna get to that too, man. And how you did all that, because let's talk about John Malachi.
Oh, yes,
now, so you knew John Malachi,
yes,
the great John Malachi, pianist.
I met him
because he taught at Howard. Right?
Yeah, I met him before he was at Howard.
Oh, so you knew him before?
Yeah.
Okay.
I met
what
John,
impact did he have on you?
John was my, oh man, John was my best friend, like a father.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Where'd you meet him?
I was driving Metrobus, and I would always have a little transistor radio in my ear. I'd have one earplug. Nobody really knew. And I heard them make an announcement that that they were starting the Pigfoot, the workshop. John was starting a workshop up at the Pigfoot.
What's the Pigfoot?
That was a nightclub on 12th and Rhode Island, owned by Bill Harris and his wife Fanny. They called it Pigfoot because they sold Pigfoot and they had jazz there.
They were selling pig.
Yeah, they had. Matter of fact, go up there. Actually, it's almost right across from that library.
Okay.
Right between the liquor store and this other store is a little building. I think they got it painted black now. The Pigfoot was probably only this wide.
Really?
There. And but it was a spot where everybody went. So I heard about the workshop. I went up there, and I signed up. And when John called my name, he said, Georgie Johnson. He said, what you want to sing? I said, I want to sing Night Tunisia. He looked at me and said, what do you know about Night Tunisia? I said, well, can you just play it just like the record? You know, Eddie Jefferson or James Moody. I sang that thing, man. Turn that club out. I sang, I got the tapes. I still got the tapes. I sang Night Tunisia.
You have the tape of that?
I got tapes of everything that I ever did from the 70s until tapes went out.
Wow, what you gonna do with that, man?
I got boxes. I'm starting to digitize them now.
Wow.
I got boxes of tapes, 2 suitcases of tapes. I got about 5 boxes of VHSs.
Wow.
I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about Moody.
Man, you got a whole
everything. Everybody that I ever met, I really got those tapes.
Wow.
I really got those tapes.
Yeah, you got to.
The last one I just sent you.
Yeah.
With Eddie.
Yeah.
I just digitized that.
Okay.
That's been sitting since 1977.
Wow.
The tape still sound. I got the whole conversation. Used to hear the whole conversation.
So how did you have the foresight to tape yourself? Did you know that you were making history, or did you just trying to document?
I was just documenting things. I was just because at that time I was practicing probably 10, 12 hours a day. Every chance I got, I was singing Charlie Parker, Eddie Jefferson, James Moody. I was singing, you know, all these. I was singing these. I would practice, and then in 68, 69, I got a job at UPS.
Okay.
And I ended up buying a teak reel-to-reel, sound on sound, and a Sony sound on sound, and I had a Kenwood amp, a nice system, and I would sit up and record my voice over Charlie Parker, over and over and over and over until it came perfect. I practiced Eddie Jefferson. I knew John Hendricks, all his material.
Wow.
King Pleasure. I would practice, and then I would find the actual solos. See, that's the whole keys of this vocalese. You got to find the actual solos and sing it with the solos. So I would sing those things over and over until they got perfect.
Wow.
And so when John asked me what I knew about, I've been singing Night Tunisia since I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a natural thing. So when I got up there and I sang that, Yardbird Suite and Billy's Bounce, Turn the Club Out. Marshall Keys was there, Noble Jolly.
Yeah.
Their father.
Senior.
His senior was,
Yeah.
See, I'm a little older than them.
Okay.
So they were probably freshmen or juniors at Howard.
So you knew Warren Shadd. Did you know Shadd's father?
I didn't know his father, but I knew Warren. We're only a couple years apart.
Okay.
I think we're about 4 or 5 years apart.
Okay, okay.
But I remember when Warren was playing at the Pick. He used to play, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Warren was the baddest drummer in D.C.
Really?
Yes. He just stopped. Warren was the baddest drummer in Washington D.C.
Really?
Young drummer.
I'm talking about Warren Shadd.
Warren Shadd.
The piano maker?
Warren Shadd was the baddest drummer. I told you he was playing.
Yeah, I know.
He was playing with everybody then.
I'm messing with it because I like to mess with it because he stopped playing, you know, but yeah.
Warren was playing. His father was taking him on gigs to the Howard Theater.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I sung at the grand reopening, the reopening of the Howard Theater in '75. I was a vocalist.
Wow.
With the big band there.
Okay.
And all the hip killer players in D.C. was in that band.
Wow.
And yeah, that was a great band.
So let's go back to Malachi.
John. Okay, good.
Now I read something. He gave you the stage name, Your Majesty.
Yes.
What's that about? How did that?
Well, you know, in them days, cats had nicknames. They would give different people nicknames.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, John gave Sarah Vaughan the nickname Sassy Sarah Vaughan, because she was in the Billy Eckstine band.
Yeah.
It was Sarah Vaughan, it was Lena Horne and Pearl Bailey.
Okay.
And they were the vocalists with the big band. This is in the 40s now.
Yeah.
And Sarah was this young 18, sassy little girl, was always cursing out the guys. And he'd say, why don't you stop being so sassy? And so the next thing you know, John did his first gig, started accompanying her and introduced her as Sassy Sarah Vaughan. Now, fast forward that about 20 years, in 1975, John said, I'm going to present you your first professional gig. And so...
so he got you your first professional gig?
At the Pigfoot.
Okay, wow. And he introduced you as?
Your Majesty, George E. Johnson.
Your Majesty,
George E. Johnson. And I asked him, so he had this song that he wrote called Your Majesty. That was his intro. So I wrote lyrics to that. Anyway, so I asked John, well, why'd you call me Your Majesty? He said, because George, you the baddest singer out here. I see some things in you, and I predict that you will be one of the most prominent singers of the day. Wow. And that's what he told me. Wow. Because I wanted to know.
Yeah. That's,
that's
an honor, man.
And then, then he used to call Charlie Parker Your Majesty.
Wow.
Because Charlie Parker was the baddest cat.
Yeah.
And Charlie Parker was his roommate with the Billy Eckstine Big Band.
I didn't know that.
No, not Charlie Parker, Dizzy. So he said they would be in the bed asleep, all of a sudden, knock, 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 4 o'clock in the morning. Charlie Parker, hey man, I got this new song, Now's the time.
Yeah. Wow. I mean? Yeah. Wow, that's it.
Yeah. So when I came up with them songs, Billy's Bounce,
yeah,
Night Tunisia, and Yardbird Suite, man, this sounds just like the record, man.
Yeah.
John, and from that day, I hung at the Pigfoot at least 5-6 days a week. So I would call John up almost every other day.
Well, what happened to the Pigfoot? It wasn't here when I got here in '87. It
ended up closing.
Okay.
Bill lost it due to tax. I think he lost it due to tax.
Okay.
But that was the #1 spot in Washington D.C.
Wow.
That was the #1 spot in Washington D.C.
The Pigfoot.
It was about 3 or 4 clubs up and down there. You had
have
Mr. Max. You had Moore's Love and Peace.
Did they have any Muslim musicians that would come to the Pig?
Yes.
They would come play at the Pigfoot?
Older guys, but they wouldn't eat no pork. You know what I mean? But, like the first time I played with John in the band was Teddy Smith. Doom, ding, ding, doom. Song from my father.
Yeah.
And a brother named Adnan Barakat, a drummer from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Now, he was a Muslim.
Okay.
Adnan Barakat.
Yeah.
He ended up dying with cancer. But that was the trio that he had when he first started. Then different people came through there. Now, during the week, he would feature different vocalists. I would go down there. I'd be down there every night. Because I was a Metro bus driver. I had my own apartment. I was single. I was just chilling. I just go out and hang out every night. I'd be around John.
Yeah, wow. Now, I want to go back. I don't know if I asked you, how did you get into jazz, period? Like, how did you, and when you heard jazz, was it immediate, like, oh, I love this?
Well, that's probably what my father played around the house most of the time.
Your dad?
And then those jam sessions, I told you I was 8 years old.
Okay. And so you jazz, it
was
just
part of my life.
Yeah.
I grew up on Charlie Parker.
Wow.
John Coltrane, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, all those things, Coleman Hawkins. I grew up on that stuff.
So why didn't you choose to play another, like a saxophone or a piano?
Oh, I attempted to do flute, and I played the cymbals in high school.
You
played I was in the orchestra.
Okay.
So that's where I did my little reading.
Okay.
In high school. I forgot about that. Yeah. I was in high school, and so but I always wanted to sing because that was one thing that nobody could tell me I was too small to do, too little to do.
So did you choose jazz, or did jazz choose you?
I guess, I don't know, man. I guess it chose me. I heard about the workshop, and I went up there.
Yeah.
And I never stopped since then.
Yeah.
And John was my best friend for 15 years till the day he died.
And you know, he passed, man.
1987. I saw his funeral.
I came up. I had a teacher that paid for me to visit. I was in high school, 12th grade, 87, and John had just died. I never got to meet him. He just passed, and the Howard University Jazz Ensemble was doing a thing at Crampton, you know, and it was dedicating it to him. So I didn't get to meet him.
Yeah, I was there. As a matter of fact,
yeah.
You know, John was in a Billy Eckstine big band with all the killer players.
Yeah.
Charlie Parker.
Yeah.
Dizzy.
Yeah.
You know. Then you had Art Blakey.
Yeah. Wow.
You had Gene Ammons. I mean, you had so many musicians in that band.
So did you get to ask some questions and?
Oh yeah, I got some interviews with John. I got some interviews just like we sitting around like this,
really?
just talking. Yeah, some interviews.
Was he a cool dude?
Yeah, John was a cool cat, man. He was a cool cat. He was one of the coolest. Oh man, John.
I met him. He has a daughter that I met.
Yeah.
Is it Carolyn?
Yeah, Carolyn Malachi.
Yeah.
Then he has a couple of sons.
Yeah. Okay.
And he has some nephews.
Okay. Yeah.
John was he was a hipster. You know, he was cool, well respected, one of the most respected musicians in the world.
Okay. Wow.
And through him, so say for instance, almost every night, somebody would pop past the club who was in town. So it might be Sarah, it might be Lou Donaldson.
Wow.
Count Basie. And then
they would come to the Pig's Foot?
Everybody, just like you go hang out at a club at night.
Yeah.
So you, say for instance, they get finished doing the left bank jazz.
Yeah.
Then they come to D.C. to see John, because John was the cat.
Yeah.
That's how I met Lou Donaldson.
Oh, wow.
Lou Donaldson came in there, and John saw Lou, and he called Now's the Time, and called me up, and Lou Donaldson played Charlie Parker's the whole solo with me while I sing it, note for note.
Wow.
That's how I met Lou Donaldson. So he was one of my influences. So everybody would come through there and said, George, come to New York, come to New York, come to New York, come to New York.
Wow.
And while I was driving Metrobus, I was making money.
Yeah. Dang, man. That's a heck of a story.
I stopped because I knew you were going to ask another question.
Yeah.
Because it gets heavy.
Now, so Malachi called you, what do you call you?
Your Majesty.
Your Majesty. Then another guy that influenced you, who we call the father of jazz vocalese, the great Eddie Jefferson. He said you're next in line.
Yeah.
He said, come on, man, you're next in line.
That was after 3 years of following him. It was in
how did you meet Eddie Jefferson?
In 1974. By this time, because you know, by that time, Fort DuPont was closed. They was doing the concerts.
What year was this?
Concerts.
What year?
In 74. Because you know, Fort DuPont closed in 68.
Okay.
The whole park, so all them trees have been growing since 68. But in 74, they started the concerts. And in 74, they were doing the concerts in the park. During the 70s, so they would have different people. I saw Dexter there and Eddie. So one day, Bill Harris and John Malachi said, Eddie Jefferson's coming to town.
Wow.
And I went up to the Fort DuPont. I lived at the South Hill high rise right there at Southern Avenue in Pennsylvania. The high rise right there. I had a bachelor's crib in there. I was a Metro bus driver. And I went to the Fort DuPont, and I laid out on the grass. And little did I know, I was laying down, sitting beside him and his girlfriend. So
you were sitting by?
actually was sitting, because I got there early. He was out there laying in the grass beside her. I got there early, and it was his car coming down the hill, and his muffler busted. And so this cat said, I'm so glad I didn't drive my car here. I said, I'm glad I didn't drive mine. I parked up there. And so, you know, I didn't know Eddie's look because the records that I had, he had a process.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at for, you know, and so so we got a conversation. I said, what's your name? He said, I'm Eddie Jefferson. I'm the performer here.
Wow.
And then I said, well, I'm George Johnson. He said, hey, man, I heard of you in New York. So next thing you know, Eddie's saying, I got the pictures. I didn't record that. Something happened to that tape. And the next thing you know, I would call Eddie up 3-4 times a week.
Wow.
He never got tired of me calling him because I knew all his material. So the next time he came, so whenever he came to D.C. after that, he stayed in my apartment.
Really?
He stayed in my apartment.
Wow.
He stayed in my apartment. Oh, man, that was one of the most beautiful things, man.
Wow.
And we would sit up and just talk all day.
So how'd you get hip to his music? Like, because I'm sure he had a... Now, would you say... Let me ask you this, because I don't want to assume anything.
Yeah.
Is he the cat that had the biggest influence on you?
Yes, because...
Okay. And how did that happen?
Once I started listening to his lyrics,
and
I could relate more to them. They were more real to me than... They were more... I could associate with more than what I could associate with John Hendricks.
Okay.
And then what happened was, then I found out that he was the one that started. I found out the story about that. So
come on,
James Moody, Eddie Jefferson was James Moody's manager. And so, you know, Eddie was originally a tap dancer.
Eddie Jefferson was James Moody's manager?
Yeah, back in the 50s. And he was dancing with him. He was tap dancing. And so, this is a whole story about that.
Come on.
So what happened, they were singing in this club, and he was singing, he sang Moody's Move for Love, and a couple other songs. There was a bartender there named Clarence Beeks. And Clarence Beeks said, can I sing your song? And he sung it for the amateur hour, the Ted Mack amateur hour, and won a recording contract.
Who this cat, Clarence?
King Pleasure.
Oh, King, okay.
So when he went to record, they say, okay, you got that. You got any more material? You got any more material?
He said, you got what?
They said, you got any more material? You got any more material?
Okay. Oh, wow.
So Eddie wrote that. So that kind of pulled Eddie in. Because they said, well, Eddie wrote that. So that kind of pulled him into the spotlight again. Because originally, Eddie was a tap dancer. So he was born 1917. So him and his brother, they were called the Candy Kids.
So how did he get into vocal? I'm
going to tell you right now.
Okay.
So he was 6, 7 years old. They would tap dance called the Candy Kids. So they would be tapping. I'm talking about the carnival circuit, the minstrel circuit, the chitlin circuit.
Yeah.
So they'd be tap dance. So Eddie said, so what they did to keep from doing the same steps over and over, they started singing. And then he would take certain songs. He started writing lyrics, the little songs like the Nancy Stomp and different things like that. Then next thing you know, he started writing lyrics. Then the word got around. This cat that was tap dancing, that was singing everybody's stuff.
Wow.
So we talking, and then he didn't record, and probably until I think around about 48, 49. And he wrote the lyrics to Moody's Move for Love. Moody had just left the country.
Yeah, that was a hit.
Because he was pissed. He moved, like all the patriots moved to Europe.
Yeah.
And so he recorded Moody Move for Love. And they called Moody and said, you got a hit. Moody said, I don't know what a hit was. A hit was somebody getting hit inside the face. So, he said he had to come home. He had to learn the solo all over.
Wow.
And then, Eddie Jefferson wrote lyrics to it in 52.
Yeah. Now, was that
in 49. In 49.
Was that the first song he put lyrics to? In terms of jazz?
No, man. This cat did Coleman Hawkins' Body and Soul. He did a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Look here, man. It's a lot of other vocalese singers out here that you don't know about. You can't depend on Wikipedia because Wikipedia, they got you thinking that the whole vocalese thing is all these white singers. This is why we have to control our narrative. We have to control our narrative because it was quite a few people singing vocalese. Eddie had a partner named Irv Taylor. He said his sung it better than him. You get Oscar Brown Jr., And then you had, you know, shit, my mind kind of slips me right now, but it was other singers out there, black singers in the 40s and 50s that sang this vocalese. Then you had John Hendricks, and then the Manhattan Transfers, and then come along until 20 years later.
So what made Eddie Jefferson the father of it?
He was the first to write lyrics to improvise solos.
Okay.
He was the first.
Okay, he was the first.
He was the first.
Okay.
I don't care who else they call him the father and all that other stuff. Eddie was the first.
Okay. Okay.
Eddie Jefferson was the first, and everybody knows this.
So once you heard Eddie Jefferson, you knew it was an immediate connection.
I learned, my father had all his records. I learned every song. I learned every song. So when he came to my apartment and stayed in my apartment, you know, I had my car, I had but then it was like I think it was 8 tracks. I'd be singing all this stuff. He said, okay.
Was he flattered?
He said, oh yeah, he was flattered. He said, because he never got tired, because he always wanted to see what it was like to see a young cat with a smooth voice singing his material. So he never got tired of me calling him. But he said to me, he said, okay, you got my shit, write your own shit.
Wow, yeah.
So people won't say that you imitate me.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time. So I went, the first song I said, let me write. So John was playing Moment's Notice all the time. And I recorded, I said, John, you know, I wrote lyrics to your solo on Moment's Notice. He said, nah, get Blue Train. And I went in my father's collection, he had Blue Train, and I wrote the lyrics of Moment's Notice in like 20 minutes.
Really?
So I practiced them for 6 years. Next question.
Wow. You practiced, we're going to talk about, and you did that with Pharoah?
Yeah, 6 years later.
6 years, wow. Pharoah Sanders.
So I had to, there's some other stuff how I moved to New York before I.
Yeah, but we're going to get to New York.
Right, okay.
I'm still here on Eddie Jefferson, okay? The one thing about Eddie Jefferson, and you can hear his influence. He had more of like a whiskey kind of thing, but yours is smoother. So you have been influenced by him, but you have your own thing.
And the thing I like about Eddie used to dance. He was a dancer too. And the same way you see me move.
Yeah.
That's the same way he moved.
Yeah, okay.
I would study him, every inflection, every move. And sometimes Eddie would break out tap dancing on So What? Or Freedom Jazz Dance. I saw him tap dance. He was bad. Eddie Jefferson was something else. He was a master.
Man, I listened to your rendition. Speaking of Freedom Jazz Dance, man, the live thing you did, that's a classic, man.
The one that was the first Trenton Jazz Festival.
That joint that's a classic, bro.
Yeah, and
that joint it just had some. Now, did Eddie pen those lyrics?
No, Eddie didn't write those lyrics. A cat named Chris D.C.
Okay, but that
Hall wrote those lyrics. He wrote the lyrics to and Trains Blues.
Yeah.
That Herbie Hancock piece.
Yeah.
He wrote the lyrics to that. He wrote the lyrics to Trains Blues. Have you heard about Train? John Coltrane. Let me tell you about Train. Let's play him something else. Have you heard about Train? Control. So he wrote that. But they didn't put his name on a lot of those things. But I met the brother.
Yeah.
I met the brother. His name was Chris Hall. But Eddie wrote most of those lyrics though.
But that performance, man, was classic. I'm just telling
you.
And
I had the tap dance. I had Tina Pratt because you know I like tap dancers too. Eddie was the one that got me using tap dancers.
Wow.
So I had Tina. I love tap dancers, man.
Man,
and I was working on the railroad. Yeah, and singing with James Moody.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah.
So, what is it like being you, man? It got to be frustrating because you done played with all the baddest cats, and you don't. Do you get the love that you think you should get? Come on, be honest. Talk to me. I mean, like,
I don't think so. I only get the love. I get the love from the master musicians, but I don't seem to get the love from these. I think it's due to ignorance, lack of knowledge, lack of respect. I don't understand it. But you know what? I never worried about it because I got railroad retirement.
Yeah,
I didn't need music.
Yeah,
and James Moody told me in 1985. Because I was working for the railroad. He said, George, keep your job. Because with my name, I can't even buy a house or a car. So I kept my job on the railroad, and I'm so glad I kept it because now, back in the 70s and 80s, the cats were traveling and making all this money, but they wasn't investing and saving it.
Yeah.
And then every time you turn around, somebody needs a GoFundMe.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they need something.
Yeah,
but I kept that job on the railroad.
And
I don't have to work. I can sit around the house all day. I was sitting around the house just doing my thing before the pandemic.
You living a good life?
Yes.
Yeah.
I live
But
good.
I'm saying, okay, we got that. But I think it's important, man, that a cat like you, that, and a lot of it is ignorance because people don't know.
Or jealousy, or maybe there's a lot of other talent out there, and they just giving other people a chance.
Well, you know, I believe that, man, you gotta give the cat his due. I mean, you don't.
Don't wait till I'm dead and all
celebrate. Yeah. But I've learned a lot from you. I'm like, man, this cat is like, you know, because you have singers, that's it. But then you have the stuff that you do, man. And if people really listen to it, it's high level stuff, man.
I used to hunt down singers.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of singers be getting all this publicity. That's all it is, publicity.
Yeah.
It's like they the bad as this and bad as that. So I pop in, don't even say nothing. Just sit down and just listen. And just go see them.
And I believe,
all of a sudden they see me and say, oh, damn.
And I believe there's enough love for everybody.
Oh, yes.
I believe that, you know, everybody can get some love. It's enough love for everybody to get some.
Me and Dick were talking about this a day for yesterday. I called him on his birthday.
Dick Smith?
Yeah, Dick Smith.
Yeah, it's my man.
And we were talking. He was saying the same thing. He said, I don't see you on certain festivals in the city.
Yeah,
I don't see you at this and that. I said, I don't know, man. I'm not in no cliques. I'm not like that.
But that's why we do this, man, because people got to know your story. Then they can appreciate. I can appreciate you just hearing your story and these experiences. That's why I think it's all about the stories.
Well, I appreciate you doing this interview.
Yeah, man, and this is the first part. We're gonna take a break because I got the second half. We got to go in a little deeper.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but this is the first half.
We just began. We might.
No, man, but I mean, you are, man. You're the real deal. I mean, I'm just, and I'm not. I'm telling you, you're the real deal because I know I've been listening to music long enough to know the real deal when I hear it. And then when I hear your stories, you've gone through all the channels that says certified.
Well, listen to the introductions. Listen to the introductions of Benny Golson.
Yeah.
Listen to the introductions of Lou Donaldson. Listen to the introductions.
Yeah. And to be called the heir apparent to someone like Eddie Jefferson.
So Lou Donaldson says, I'm the greatest bebop in America.
Wow.
Benny Golson say, the other cats are running around in circles, running around the circle in the fort. George goes in.
Wow. Come on.
You know, he goes in.
Yeah.
So, you know, these cats know. And I didn't ask none of these guys to say that. Benny Golson, I heard an interview with Benny Golson. He was in Florida. And I heard that interview. He was talking about me. I didn't know he was talking about me, you know, and I really appreciate that. I love that brother, man, because those cats look out for me.
Yeah. I think we had a time in jazz, too, man, where it's, you know, jazz used to be, you had individual personalities. Everybody now trying to be this thing. I don't know what this thing is. I don't fit in it because I'm too unique. And jazz used to be about being unique. Like, you know, Bud Powell, he might have been a little strange, but that was Bud Powell. Thelonious Monk, and it was all part of the music, and you just embraced it because it all was a part of the music.
I love this. I love this music so much, man.
Yeah.
This is all I do. I live music.
Yeah.
I live music.
I mean, you can see it. You can see it
all day. I practice.
Yeah. And
just in case something happened, somebody said, "Can you do this gig?" And I said, "I can do the gig."
Yeah. And man, that's why I think we have to, like you said, you don't want to wait till cat, you know, hit the bucket, you know, and flip the bucket, whatever they call it, but and then trying to give them, throwing roses on them and the flowers.
Fred Foss.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. And it's like
Ron Sutton couldn't even get no goddamn gigs.
Wow.
Fred Foss ain't hardly getting no gigs. All of a sudden they recognized him at certain festivals.
Yeah.
But what happened when he was alive? He was playing.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple cats around here like that.
Yeah.
Andrew
White, yeah, man.
Yeah, Buck Hill.
Yeah.
Shirley, I remember I used to go see Shirley. It'd be 2 or 3 people in the club.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this, and we're going to take a little break because this is kind of long for the first part, but we're going to do the second part. I got some more stuff.
Okay.
This is what I mean with pre-integration, when you had a black community. And I saw this with hip-hop. Before it was, we validated it within our own community. now it's like we want to be validated by the large community, and we want to, you know, we want to get a Grammy. I get all that, and that's all good, but we have to still validate our community and the people in our community. I mean, when I grew up, man, you had people in the community. I mean, nobody probably outside of our community knew nothing about, but they were famous
in the community.
In the community, so they had a sense of like importance in the community that they grew up. Whether they can dance, whether they might have been some spray paint, they can fight, they may be good in sports, they can play an instrument, or they can rap and hip hop and all that. But we was able to validate each other in the community, and it gave us a sense of connectedness, belonging, and that sort of thing.
Well, I think, you know, a lot of times you have people that didn't grow up in the community, and a lot of people in D.C. that didn't grow up in the community that are running things.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference, too.
Yeah.
Because...
but they need to hear your stories because they need to know what they don't have. See, if you don't know what the real stuff is, you think it's just music. It's not just jazz is not just music. It's a culture. You know, hip hop people sell that as a culture. They don't sell it just as music. See, jazz cats, you know, I mean, like we call each other cats, they call each other dogs. But it's the same thing. They got nicknames, 50 Cent, P. Diddy.
Your Majesty.
Your Majesty. You know, Bird, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. But these are cultural nuances. You know what I'm saying? And so we got to get that. We can't lose that because that's what all this magic comes from. It comes from that communal kind of thing.
All those ingredients.
Yeah. And so now we're in a situation where everybody want to act like one thing. Like everybody afraid to be different or to be out of the box.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying, man. It's like, that's why I can appreciate you and what you do. And just hang on in there. Do what you do. Don't change because like you have a legacy. And you say you got to take, I would encourage you to get that stuff out, man, because at the end of the day, you have to cement your legacy.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Because you can't depend on them or whoever is controlling the jazz thing to cement your legacy. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, being different and unique is very important because there are thousands of singers out here singing the same songs just like the records.
Yeah.
It sounds just like the records.
Yeah. And not only that, just having your own personality, not being afraid to be, you know, different. Like, I'm different. I know I'm different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I embraced it. It was difficult at one time because I wanted to fit in.
Yeah. But
I learned how to embrace being different and unique. And because ain't nobody gonna be me like me. You understand what I'm saying? Anyway, man, we're gonna take a break. Before we do you have a philosophy that you live by, a life philosophy or music philosophy that you live by?
Well, I believe that in order to get something, you have to put something in it. You have to work hard.
Yes.
Be honest. Don't steal. Don't lie. Don't cheat. Treat people.
Put something in.
You know.
Yeah.
Treat people like people.
Wow.
And be honest.
Yes, sir.
And don't ever lie, because the more you lie, it comes back to haunt you. So you just have to be real. That's all.
Wow. Good. Good stuff, man. Well, there you go. In order to get something out, you got to put something in.
Oh, yeah.
We've been talking to Your Majesty, Mr. George V. Johnson, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to see you on the other side. This is a conversation in jazz. We'll be right back.
All right.